Hello. The first story I can tell you today, because we're going to talk about storytelling, is that I do start not liking this restreaming platform. Because you probably saw me for a second a few minutes ago, and then I saw you heard my own voice, and there's all kind of things that are happening the last 2 weeks. Something is going on with Restream, the streaming platform. There is options, so I probably will change. It's been too many times I have glitches and technical challenges, which makes me nervous when I talk to you. And then when you are watching, you never know if it's going to go to the end or if it goes to the right channel. So this is really not very reliable. Even it's called Restream, and it was very, very impressive until now because they can stream on so many channels, social media. You can record, you can do all kind of things. But I have not, for some reason, and I have limited logistics, limited staff, and all of that. So when you produce this yourself, and even if you have a little help, and it's always showing something deceiving, then what it is that you lose trust and you lose. It's not reliable. So this is what I'm sharing with you. If anyone wants to help me or have any advice, please do not hesitate to send me a message or comment over here. I'll be very much welcoming your advice. Welcome to everybody. You are on YouTube, you are on LinkedIn, you are on Facebook, you are also on Instagram and on X, the former Twitter, and then the podcasts, especially from Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Podcast. And I'm happy to be here with you for You Change the World every week on Thursday now. This is a different time today. It changes. Sometimes it's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes it's 12:30 or 12:40, like today, because we had this technical issue. So I probably have lost some of you, but gained maybe some others. So welcome, welcome. I would like to again mention the mission statement here. We are here as a coach, as a leadership coach, leadership development coach, also as a mediator. And all of this that I do every day, I learn so much from my clients that I want to listen to, to share with you. Not their confidential story, because each time I meet a client and I work with my clients, they are in a very confidential and private space. But for sure, in the different themes that we are covering every day, that gives me some trends, and I'm happy to sometimes realize that, well, I heard it from this, I heard this from that, and from this person and that person, or this group of people, because I'm also coaching teams, and I'm fascinated that today things that are popping up are things that are extremely different than used to be. And it's 2024. We are now in the spring, hopefully, of 2024. I'm saying hopefully because one day is a nice weather, the other day is a rain, and then hot, and then cold. So we're living really interesting times. We can't make plans so much, and we cannot really also be stubborn about our own desires because things are happening differently. We need to be very adaptable to anything that happens during the day or during the month. It's good to make plans, right? But it's also good to be adaptable when they are not happening the way you want, because just your destiny wanted something different, or because just there is different things happening around you, and you're a leader. For those who who I coach, there are usually people who are responsible for other people, for businesses, for organizations. They have vision, they have a financial responsibility. And if you're not a leader, you might be a family, a family head, have children, or have other responsibility if it's not responsibility of yourself. So I always feel that I'm talking to the right people, right? And by talking to you and sharing those information with you. So why do I bring today the storytelling as a theme? Is because communication, right, is all we have to reach out and to establish a relationship. Communication is all we have to convey a message, sometimes important message, and we want people to be listening. And if we are the center of attention for any reason, how can we captivate our audience and keep them connected to us? And because the attention is never there for a very long time, the attention span is very short due to technology, due to many people who got to be ADHD and ADD, and all the consequences of high tech and the things that speed and pace dictate for us in our daily lives. that makes it difficult to focus. Only maybe when you're in your bed before falling to sleep, you are reading a book and you're focusing on it. Only, hopefully, when you're with your spouse, your partner, and you are face to face in a restaurant, you put your phone on the side and you can look in each other's eyes and start communicating. But communication in an organization where things sometimes get complicated, where you need to also be very alert and intentional in what you're saying, very present and very cautious, politically correct, all the things that are in fact asking you to be a good leader and to convey the message properly, means that communicating is almost a science. Communicating is maybe the challenge number one, if I would rank the topics that I'm coaching about every day. Communication, for sure, comes at the very top, because communication also is a key for peace and a key for expressing yourself in all freedom when you want to make a statement and share your opinion. You're totally allowed and entitled to do so, hopefully, because it's not always true that you can say what you want. But you need to be intentional and you need to think before you speak, and you need to be very mindful of the others people, what their sensitivity is about, and how they can receive your message, right? It's really like the post office, right? You generate a message out there. The post office is whichever media you use, like me now, this microphone and the streaming that is going on for you to receive my message and see me and watch me and listen to me. And in the same time, when I'm in one room with one person, eye to eye, face to face, or via the internet with Zoom or with Teams or any other video platform, I am talking to someone. I am having an influence, an impact on someone. I know that my presence and my words and who I am have all to play in this very moment to have this impact on this other person or to receive the impact from someone else. But communication is this. It's the line between the two of us, or between me and 1,000 people, if not a million. It's definitely what I'm trying to think about when I'm fully, in this moment, unconditionally with you. And you know what? I bring always greatness when I talk about unconditional presence, because I think of me with my children years ago, feeling guilty when I was traveling for business and not being present. Even a phone call would not suffice to say I love you and to say, but it was all I had at the time. But I knew I had also a remorse that my communication was not sufficient. I did not put the right setting to have the influence. So today, I don't have any regret anymore because I see we have a very good relationship. But it's a little bit of a miracle because I was traveling extensively, and to be a father, to be a husband, to travel a lot, all of that doesn't really give you a balance. So you have to watch that too. Your communication needs to be using the right platform and the availability. And when I say about unconditional time, really undivided time, when you are right there, present with someone, I'm giving you the scenery, right, the setting, because we talk about storytelling, but we have to talk about the setting first. We set the stage, right? And story, stage, theater, acting, all these beautiful things that we do intentionally with a designer, with the special light, we think of all the details so that the message, the acting, the performance becomes a brilliant moment. And greatness, because I go back to that, is when you give this time, this attention, and think about all these details so that your message goes through and gets to that person in the right format, in the right amplitude. You magnify it if you have to, but you need to think of also the volume, the intensity, all these details so that this message is maximized in its importance, in its impact, and the influence that you have in this person. When I talk about leadership, I'm not talking about politics. I hate politics. I wrote recently a newsletter in LinkedIn to my readers about politics. And I add this point because storytelling, I'm not talking about narrative in the sense of making up a story. I'm making a story given into the communication to add value or to make the communication efficient. I'm not talking about storytelling to tell a story, a lie, or a narrative for an agenda that is not necessarily good or well intended. That's what politics brings people to do. They create a narrative to beat their adversary or to do something sometimes nasty, and most of the time more nasty than nice, in the corporate environment, like in the political scene. And we see this a lot now with the coming up elections. And I'm pretty turned off by this. I'm not interested at all. I'm not watching anything. I'm not trying to read the news. I try to avoid it as much as possible, but I'm not naive, and people are talking to me, so I get some information and trying not to be influenced by anything, because politics is a terrible thing. I really don't like it. It's dirty, doesn't smell good to me. So back to the communication, but it's good I say that because it really tells you what's going on. For me, in the world of communication, I want to make it very clear that when I speak about communication, this is what I talk about. I talk about communication for the sake of something constructive with a positive mindset. The mindset behind the communication also is the driver. That's the fuel of the story. Now we're going to talk about the storytelling. What is the storytelling? It's to add something to what you want to convey so that the person understands it better. Once upon a time, I was in that situation like you are. And you know what happened? I was in this lab. I was working for pharma. I was a scientist. And I made that experience. And we took about 3 years to come to some first conclusions. And you know what? My boss, what he told me, he said to me that my idea was tremendous, but we had to kill the whole thing because it was costing too much money and it was too risky. And for the brand of the pharma company, this was also a risk in this brand and his image. So it was too much at stake, and my project was rejected. I just told you a story, right? And it just came out of my imagination because I didn't prepare it. So it's probably something with pharma because I have some clients in pharma, and when he talks about science or about a budget and an argumentation, when someone tried to convince a group of people and makes a presentation, all of this is happening here in the space of the internet, because we do this most of the time over a video platform. And I like it. I find this, in fact, fascinating that we can do a lot via video in the communication, in the coaching, that like we did before in person. That doesn't also uh, disqualify to do good coaching, and even better when we're in person. That's for sure. I believe that very much. So I just told you a story. And this story added value to a point I wanted to make about maybe an instance that happened to me as a researcher working for a pharma company. And now that I'm preparing a strategy to discuss this with stakeholders next week, I'm preparing with my coach or alone something that is very crucial for my fiscal year. And this is what's going to determine if I can hire or fire, or if I can get a raise and be promoted, or if simply I will be able to get this project through and eventually become a rich person in a few years when the FDI, when it will be approved and when we will be able to put this product in market. So that's all we do, right? Business is about products, about services, it's about pricing, it's about market, it's about competition. We have so much to communicate, unbelievable. And every day we have to be high-performing people, and that's what's expected of us. And there's a lot of expectations, and they are higher and higher. Another common denominator I find is understaffing. People are very much under pressure and almost burning out because the resources, the means are less, and they have to do with what they have. Sometimes it's not reasonable. Sometimes we expect people to do things that are not reasonable, not in terms of asking them too much or of them too much. So again, communication is key, because if someone is asking me, now I'm reporting to someone, that person instructs me, directs me, and give me instructions that are overwhelming, that I'm not able to handle. And I'm thinking twice before I say it, because I don't know how to say no, or how to say maybe someone else. But definitely, I have a boundary of time and a boundary emotionally, that I should not be affected by this request, and I should not be anxious that I will lose my job or I'll lose my reputation because I'm saying no, right? Communication, the way we're going to say no. the way you're going to set up that boundary. All of this is in this incredible capacity we have to speak, to write, to use any kind of medium, which, by the way, the best will always be to be in person and talk to the person, or to always be to take a phone eventually and talk to the person real time. The one I would like to really recommend you stay away from is the writing in email, in texting, in WhatsApping. I don't know what you want. It's in writing, especially in the corporate world. When you are a leader and you take responsibility to communicate, even you are going to add a story to what you're saying. If you start writing this, it makes you extremely liable for what you're saying. It will be held against you. And this is something I'm saying here most to my American listeners and an audience than to anybody else in the world. This is the capital, the USA, of litigations and of legal actions and legal mindsets. It's very difficult. We always talk about disclaimers here. We never talk about this so much elsewhere. Doesn't mean there is no litigation elsewhere, but here it's in the center of the mind of everybody. So if you are putting yourself at risk that someone is going to sue you for something you said in a way that you did not mean, but you wrote, you didn't mean it, you wrote it. Now compare this to a moment when I'm in a room and I'm saying it, and then I can forgive myself if the person tells me in this dialogue, you know what, or I misunderstood you, or you meant something that affects me and I'm hurt, or I don't agree with you, or I guess to the next level, even if it's a difficult conversation or a conflictual conversation. But in writing, kidding me? We have to think about this. We passed the age, right? I'm talking about 10 years old, that we have to be responsible for what we do. So, especially writing. So, you see, I'm adding a lot of things into this narrative, into this storytelling, asking you to take a lot of precautions. And going back now to the basics, because we have only 2 minutes left. I have started a little late, so I apologize, but I will still have a hard stop in 2 minutes. So, I want to just conclude by saying to all of you, the storytelling is definitely a tonality, a voice, a posture with your body. It's an acting performance, the storytelling, but it's a tool. It's an excellent tool to communicate and to convey a message and to be very convincing when you want to convince someone, when you are pitching, or when you are just talking and make a first impression on someone or on a group of people. The storytelling will give illustration, color, and dimension to what you're saying, and will keep people's attention, especially on you, and will give a wealth, richness to your talk, to your content. A story adds value in all sense of the way. It has color again, really, yeah, it has dimension. It has really something touchable, tangible, and if you calculate and you really think of the story you want to tell because you know your audience, so you adapt that story to your audience, you make it really sure that they're going to be really touched by it. And if you're not alone in preparing and you can get a coach or someone to help you, can just to validate, to verify that you have the impact, that the story is good for them and it's for you and for the purpose that you have, conveying that message to them. That's what you need to do. And the story can be about anything, personal, professional, or just a story that is known or a story of someone else, as long, of course, as you have permission to say that story to this audience. But whatever it is, storytelling is a tonality, is a format, is something you put in your content, and you associate with sometimes things that could be boring or could be very technical, or numbers or graphics or things, statistics, whatever. Even that can be a story. From this year to this year, an evolution. From this number to the number, comparing this to this. It's always a story. As soon as there is a sentence, there is a subject and verb, and you can really put people, characters, colors, and situations in the story, it becomes a story. And that's, you have to then have, and then it gives you the opportunity. That's what I wanted to finish on. It gives you this opportunity to have a different voice when you tell a story. It's not monotone because there is an up and down, there is a person here, there is a weather here, there is a decorum here. And I get passionate about what I say because I want you to really live the moment and maybe live the story itself. Then your voice becomes extremely captivating. And that's what you want. Your presence is full. People are going to have this 10 minutes with you, this half hour with you, for not more, because to keep people, listening for more than a half hour today is really, really a challenge. But the story will definitely give you some guarantees that you are going to be successful in what you want to communicate. Thank you for being here today, Thursday, with me, especially with all the different things that happened technically because of my delay and all of that, for which I apologize deeply. But I will try to always try to get this better and have the right resources and the people to help me out to make this moment of quality and to have you with me more regularly and more people attending, even if I'm not so crazy about having a lot. I just would like to have you with me, the quality people, the people who are motivated to listen to a coach and to listen to those topics. Thank you. See you next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.